Hey, it's Austin, and this is Zoom session number 12. Today, I'm going to be talking about Adobe Premiere. In my previous Zoom sessions about Photoshop and other things like that, I kind of talked about some basic things that you can do with the program, and then kind of gave you a challenge at the end. Today, I think I'm going to try and give you the challenge to begin with, and then we're kind of going to go over how I would go about doing that challenge. I think it's easiest to learn Premiere when you have an end goal in mind. You have some type of vision for some video that you want to make, and then you're going about doing things that you want that video to have, as opposed to just kind of playing around. What's up, Ty? I just started about 30 seconds ago, so you're not too late. I was just telling the guys um, I'm going to give you guys the challenge right here at the beginning, and then can I hear you? I can't hear you, Ty. Hey, what's going on, guys? Well, anyway, I'm going to give you guys the challenge at the beginning, and then I'm going to tell you guys how to kind of go about doing that challenge. Can you guys hear me all right? Ty, can you hear me? There you go. I can hear you guys now. Can you hear me all right? Okay, cool. All right. So anyway, Adobe Premiere is today. We're going to be talking about how to use the program, and I'm going to give you the challenge at the beginning as opposed to the end, and then I'm going to share how I would go about doing that challenge. So if you've kind of stayed up to date on what we've been doing on our social media, the Strive TV social media at all, we've been posting these videos after playoff games, football playoff games. And so last Friday I went to York, and York played Roncalli, and I put together a kind of a 1-minute highlight package. It wasn't really like a TV news highlight reel where there's a VO and you're showing clip after clip. This was more kind of just took 4 or 5 highlights. It might have been a little more than that, and then got some interview audio from the head coach after the game, and then laid that underneath. And so I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and show the whole thing right now, and then I'll get right into Premiere and show you guys how I would go about making one of these. So hopefully you can hear this.
Well, coming into the game, we told the guys this is the playoffs, and things all kind of get ratcheted up another notch as far as the intensity, the physicality, the effort. And that was definitely the case with Ryan Collie. They came out and played very, very hard. They just played passionately. They really got after it. We didn't quite match their intensity level in the first half, and so they kind of surprised us a little bit, I think, with their effort level and their speed and physicality as well. We quit making mistakes in the second half. I mean, that's really the bottom line. We made so many uncharacteristic mistakes in the first half, and we generally weren't good. And we really went back to basics too in the second half. Our size just kind of wore on a little bit. It's tough to hold up to big guys matches sometimes. Defense played well when it needed to. We let them. They picked up yards in the middle of the field, and then once they get close to the end zone, kind of put the points on. That's kind of the type of defense we have. They make plays through the game too. Turnover is always huge.
All right, so that was only a minute long, and I've kind of laid down some groundwork here to begin with. It kind of takes a little bit to get going into Premiere, but you can see my kind of file organization here. I've got a couple different folders here, and the first one is audio because it's obviously in alphabetical order here. And so I've got the coach's interview that I got after the game, and then the song that you guys heard underneath as well in that audio folder. I had a couple graphics in there. The first one was just, the Strive Sports overlay that was in the bottom right-hand side corner, and then the final score came at the end. I've already made those. I made those in Photoshop, and then saved those as PNG files, so the background was transparent. So when I pull it in, you'll just see the score at the bottom as opposed to a giant, white square or rectangle or whatever. Then I've got a video or a folder for raw video. So these are all the highlight clips that I recorded during the game. I kind of posted up in the end zone, and would start and stop pretty much every play. Some cameras have pre-record where you don't have to do that, record every single play, but with the DSLRs that we use, they don't have that. And so I kind of recorded, anytime there was a play. I cut a couple crowd shots as well in case I wanted to use those. And then I've got a folder here titled Premiere. And so whenever you the first time you open up Premiere, it's going to ask you what you want to name your project and where you want to save that. And so I saved that in this folder. because periodically, probably every 10 or 15 minutes, Premiere is going to auto-save. It might be probably 20 or so. It's going to auto-save your progress. So in case Premiere crashes, which it sometimes does that, especially if you're using up a lot of RAM, Premiere will crash, but hopefully the previous auto-save will save a lot of your progress. And just hit Command S every so often, so that you don't have to worry about it crashing. So that's my groundwork there. So I'm going to go. I've already got this Premiere project opened up. There's a couple other things I did here that you can see. I've got a sequence open already, and it's got some green markers at the top. I'll kind of go over what those are. But this is your editing window that you're probably going to see the very first time you open Premiere. It won't have anything in the program or the source windows there, because you haven't probably imported anything into the project yet. But I like to switch my my viewing mode from editing to assembly. That gives me kind of a better, I can see what's going on over here that I've imported a little bit better. So that's what I like to do first. And then once you import something, you can kind of just double click in that window and it should open up an import window, and you can grab whatever you need to grab. In this case, it would be all that raw footage, and then the audio and stuff like that. And I've got that saved in here. So I could be able to like grab all of this, hit Command A, and then go ahead and import. That'll take a while with that many clips, so I'm not going to do that right now since I've already done it. You'll do that with your audio as well. And so the first thing I do is I'm going to lay down my song right here, and then these green markers are actually, I've listened to the song, and every time I like to cut my my footage to like beats in the audio. And so every time there was a heartbeat in the audio, I would hit the M key on my keyboard, and that would place a marker. And so these will come in handy a little bit later when I'm gonna throw down some video. And so I know exactly where to cut those. Otherwise, it takes a little bit longer to try and find some place to cut after you've already laid down the video. But I've already done that here. You can do this, even before the game started. I think that's what I did on Friday morning. Was I kind of laid down my song and then put these cuts in there. So after the game, I could just kind of throw in coach's interview and the video. So that would be the second thing I would do, is to lay down coach's interview. And so if I double click that, I can see the preview here of the audio. And what I'm going to do here is cut out the questions I asked him and just grab his audio. So
coming into the game,
that's where he starts there. And then this is probably towards the end
I think, with their effort level and maybe with their speed and physicality as well.
That's the end of the question. So I hit in to mark in at the beginning there. Now I'm going to hit O on my keyboard to mark out. And then I'm just going to grab the audio and lay that down on the track. And I can kind of see where he starts again right there. So I'll hit I.
We quit making mistakes in the second half. I mean,
and then go to the end of that question. You can kind of tell when he's talking and when I'm talking. So I've got the mic pointed at him, so he's obviously going to be much louder than what my waveform is going to look like. And I'll drag and drop that down. Go to the next one.
Defense played well when it needed to. We let them. They picked up yards in the middle of the field, and then once they got close to the end zone, we kind of put the clamps on, and that.
Mark O for out, and then drop that down here. And I might be at a minute already. That's pretty close to a minute. I asked him one more question, and I didn't end up using this audio in my final thing. But it's always good to have more than you need, as opposed to not enough, because then your video kind of lulls a little bit if there's no audio underneath. So I'll go ahead and leave that there, and then I'm going to drag this. I know for Instagram, videos only last a minute, so I'm going to drag this to 1 minute exactly, and then take my song and stop that at a minute right there. And so right now, when I import this song for the first time, it's going to be full audio, and I don't really want that. That's going to be way too loud. You're not going to be able to hear coach's audio and the NAT sound from the video that you record. So to lower that audio down, you can right-click the track and then go to audio gain. The shortcut for this, because I do this a lot, especially if I'm going to lay down a bunch of clips, I'm going to want to lower the audio on all of them. You can just hit G after you've selected the track, and that'll bring up that audio gain menu. And then I'll probably drop this down. I can't remember. I usually go -21 or -18. I typically edit in multiples of 3. I'm not sure why, but we'll start off with -21 here, and I might actually have to bring up his audio. Since the peak amplitude is at 10, I might bring that up like 6 decibels or maybe like 4 decibels here. So he's a little bit louder. And now I'm kind of ready to look at the footage. So I've got a folder in here. You can make a new folder as opposed to having all these video files just kind of open, and you're going to have to, scroll up and down every time you want to find something, because this is going to be in alphabetical order on the left here. I put all my raw footage into a folder so I can hide that folder and more easily access the other things that I've got imported into my project here. And during the game, I was actually taking notes about highlight plays. Since I talked about there's no pre-record, so not all my clips are going to be good. I had this notepad in my pocket, and then I had a 4-color pen to kind of mark down. I don't know if you can kind of see it there. The Ron Colley plays were in red, and then most of the York plays were in blue. I might have not done that right away, but I kind of figured it out after the fact. And I could take notes on what those plays were too. That way, as opposed to looking through every single one of these clips and trying to remember which ones were good and which ones weren't, if a team scored a touchdown, I just pull out my notepad, write that number down on this notepad here. If you hit the play button on your camera, you should be able to see what footage you've got recorded, and it should give you a file number. And so over here are those file numbers, and I should be able to see that in the camera body while I'm at the game, and I can write those numbers down on a sheet of paper here. So I know the first good play is 699 here instead of 670 because I wrote it down. And so we'll take a look at what that one is and see if it's any good.
We told the guys this is the playoffs and things all kind of get.
There it is. So it was kind of lagging behind there. Let's try that again. All right, so I must have wrote that one down for good defense. My next number down here is 704. And I've already actually got this marked in and out because this is a new sequence, but this is the same project that I edited the actual sequence in. So I've already got it marked in and out. But once I do have it marked in and out, I can just grab the video screen here and pull it down. And then, like I said, I'm going to want to lower that audio down a little bit.
Well, coming into the game, we told the guys this is
Premiere's kind of funny. It's taken a while to play that back. That's not actual speed. Once you export it out, it'll look smooth. And it'll look a lot better.
Things all kind of get ratcheted up another notch.
But this is kind of where these marks will come into play. I kind of like to slow video down a little bit. I might do it on the next play here. We'll go to 7:11. That's my next one that I've marked down. And we'll drag and drop that in. Lower the audio down. So with this mark, I can just click on the mark there, and it'll automatically take my little blue guy that shows where I'm at to that mark. And then if I hit the C key on my keyboard, it'll take me to my razor tool, and that'll let me cut video. And so there's a couple different ways where you can slow video down. That's something else I didn't talk about. You're going to have to work on your sequence settings when you first open up Premiere. So you're going to want to record, if you want to use slow-mo, you're going to want to record your video at 60 frames per second and then edit the video in a sequence that's either 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second. So you can slow that video down, and then you won't drop any frames. If you shoot 30-frame video and then edit in 30 frames and then you try and slow that down, it's going to look really choppy because you're dropping frames in between. But I'm editing in 24 right now. So I'll just hit cancel here because I've already got that working out right now. But if I hit the C key, that'll bring up my razor tool, and I'll be able to cut this video. and then highlight the one I want to slow down. And if I right click it, I can go to speed duration in this drop down menu here. And then if you're editing in 30 frames and you're working with 60 frames, you can go down to 50%. If you're editing in 24 frames, you can go down to 40% and have the video be totally smooth. When you do this though, you're going to want to unlink the audio and the video, because if you slow down the audio, it's going to sound really funky. So all you want to do is actually slow down the video to 40% and keep the audio 100% speed. And this is going to make your video a lot longer than your audio, so you're going to have to kind of maybe move that around a little bit and use up more audio. And it won't be synced perfectly with the video, but if you kind of get like the crowd cheering after they score the touchdown or something like that, you know, it still works out pretty okay. So when you're doing this, I know that I only have about a minute, and so I'm not going to want the whole clip slowed down. So maybe just slowing down the catch, or you know, the throw and the catch, or the most important part of the play essentially is what you're going to want to do. And then I'll cut that back up and then put my speed back up to 100%. That way I'm not using up, you know, 20, 30 seconds for one clip, and then I'll bring my audio back down. And so when I kind of preview it here, it's not playing back very well. I wonder if I open up my other sequence that you can see a little bit better maybe.
Well, coming into the game, you know, we told
still pretty choppy there. But that's how I would slow down video. Something else I did in this was I put this overlay on there, so that's in the bottom right hand corner of the entire video. If I ever wanted to hide something so I didn't have to watch it, you can use these eyes here. And then at the end I put the score as well. But Instagram likes square videos, so I posted this wide video onto Twitter, but then I wanted to post a square one to Instagram. So once you've got your project laid down and ready to export, you can actually go over to your sequences. They're going to be in your media bin over here. And if I right click it and duplicate it, it'll take you know, everything in my sequence and make a copy of it. And so then I'll name this one Instagram, because then I'm going to change the settings to a square so that I can post it natively to Instagram, and it'll work out really well. So I want to open up that sequence by double clicking on it, and it looks identical to the one I had already edited. But now I'll go into sequence and settings, and then I want to change my frame size to 1080 by 1080. You might have to change your editing mode in this to like custom, or I've had good luck with RE Cinema as well. And that'll let me unlock that and change it to 1080 by 1080. And when you do this, you're going to lose a lot of, you know, you're not going to be able to see everything, so you might have to move stuff around. In order to do that, you'll take the clip, highlight it, and see, right now I can't see the runner. And go over to Effect Controls. So on the Mac, I'm just using 2 fingers and, you know, scrolling across there and going to Effect Controls. You can see I've actually applied some other stuff to this. But I want to go to motion, and then you can see my position right here. And these numbers, 540 is half of 1080, so that means that it's directly centered at the very middle of vertically and horizontally of 1080. And so to change that, I would just change this number. That way, when I watch it, I should be able to see the runner.
You know, we told the guys this. Things all kind of get ratcheted up another notch as far as you know,
and it's not playing back very smoothly right now. I got too much going on my computer. But this is pretty huge, especially going from, you know, a 16 by 9 to 1 to 1. You'll be able to see your stuff a lot better if you're moving around with the motion video effects, and then edit the position settings there. So once I've got my video ready to go, you can see I can move these over too. See if that's working. Yep. So I can see that at the very end. And then this isn't visible anymore, so we'll change that number a little lower. So once I'm ready to go, I'm going to want to export. You can't just like save as like you can in Photoshop or anything like that. You're going to have to actually export your video sequence, and this will take a while too. But to do that, you'll go to File, and then go down to Export and export your media. If it's blanked out, that means you're just not selected on a sequence. I'm over here in my editing window, and so I'll click inside my sequence, which it'll be outlined by blue now. So I'll go File and Export, and then Export Media. Take a second for everything to load, but this is the window that'll pop up. And so your output name right here is going to be whatever you titled your sequence. You could kind of see my sequences were just named, 1, 2, 3. So if I want to change that, I want to double click that and name it York versus Roncalli in this instance, and then call it Instagram, since this one was the square version. And then this will also let me pick where I want to save that video. So I'll go back into my folders that I had set up already, and then just click into that folder, and it'll save it right here. So I can hit save and then go ahead and hit export. And this will take a while. Depending on how long your video is, it'll probably be about 2 to 3 times the length of the video. So with this minute video here, it might be 2 or 3 minutes. If I've got a lot going on my computer, it might take a little bit longer than that, but it's not immediate. So you're going to have to kind of plan for that when you're editing video. Plan out, 10, 15 minutes for you to export your video, or if it's, if you're making a 20-minute video, you might want to give yourself a couple hours. Maybe export that overnight and come back in the morning and see what it looks like. But that's kind of the basics of Premiere. If you guys need anything, feel free to email me or Sarah or Taylor or Eric. Any one of us will probably be able to help you. But for the project this week, well, it kind of depends if you have a football or volleyball team still playing, but you could do this for basketball as well once basketball season gets started up. Make like a minute-long video, kind of a highlight video. Try and use some slow-mo if your cameras can shoot a video in 60 frames per second, and then go get some interview audio from the coach after the game and lay that underneath. Use some music to keep it kind of entertaining. And then don't forget to brand yourself by putting your overlay on there. Make sure people who are watching it know who made the video. But that's the project. Do a 1-minute highlight video. Hopefully this taught you a little bit about Premiere. Like I said, it's kind of tough to work in Premiere unless you kind of have an end vision in mind. You kind of need an end goal to kind of strive towards or work towards to really kind of motivate yourself to work inside Premiere. Otherwise it gets kind of boring. But alrighty, that's pretty much it for Zoom session number 12, Adobe Premiere. So thanks for tuning in, Ty and Andy. Kenzie's there and Austin's there, I'm sure too. But thanks for listening to you guys. Hopefully I didn't bore you too bad. But have a good Wednesday.